The vertebrate clade of animals is going to be characterized by having a vertebral column. Now that column is going to give the animals a lot of structural support, so they're going to have an extensive skeleton, and in addition to that, they're also going to have a complex nervous system. Now, it's thought that there were a series of duplication events that took place with the Hox genes in animals that led to these particular developments. To start off looking at the vertebrates, we're first going to look at the most basal group of all the vertebrates, which is this one right here. Now, this group is going to be what we tend to call the Lampreys. Okay, so here is a look at the Lampreys. And these are all aquatic organisms, and most of them are going to be parasites of some type. So you can see in the picture down here at the bottom, we have several lampreys actually attached to this fish, and this is what they tend to do, although the larvae are suspension feeders. So we have lots of suspension feeders, and then once they get to the adult stage, they're typically going to be parasitic. These are characterized by having a skeleton that is made of cartilage, but that cartilage has no collagen in it. So this is going to be something that is distinctive for this particular group. Now, if we go past those basal vertebrates and we look at our next clade, the next clade is going to be the Mathesons. And these are most characterized by now having some jaws and a mineralized skeleton. The jaws are going to be hinged jaws. So this is going to help them to open and close. They are going to have a much larger forebrain. And this larger forebrain is going to be important for helping them to capture their food a lot better, so both to find it and then also to capture it if need be, if they're predators. They're also going to be better at escaping predators. We'll also find that there's going to be a lateral line system in some of these organisms as well. So these are all important developments that are going to help them to be successful. If we look at the first group that we're talking about with the jawed animals, we have what are typically called the cartilage fish. So the cartilage fish are going to include both the sharks, and they're also going to include rays. So on this page, or this slide, we see the sharks. So we're talking about the chondrichthyes group right here. So the cartilage fish, they do have a series of fins that are going to help them really maneuver quite well in the ocean. And most of these are going to have some traces of bones in them. But for the most part, their fins and their body is going to be supported by a skeleton of cartilage. These are going to be very powerful, fast swimmers. These are primarily going to be predators, so these are going to be carnivores. And they have a very good sensory system, and a lot of that is due to that lateral line system. So the lateral line system, if we go back to that for just a moment, the lateral line system is going to help them to sense vibrations in the water. So this will be very good for helping them to detect prey and also to detect predators if they are fish that a lot of other animals would be preying upon. The other group that we have in the cartilage fish is the rays. So that's what we're seeing on this slide. These are primarily going to be bottom dwellers. So they're going to stay quite close to the bottom of the ocean. And these feed primarily on crustaceans and mollusks that they would find on the ocean floor. So they're going to be able to crush those using their hinged jaws. Most vertebrates are going to have a bony skeleton. So it's going to be an ossified skeleton, which means that they're going to have a skeleton of bones made with calcium phosphate. So these are the typical bones that we certainly are much more familiar with. So once we get past the cartilage fish, all the rest of the animals on this tree are going to have this characteristic. So this clade is called the Osteichthys. Try to spell this correctly. And it's going to include some fish, and we're also going to have all the tetrapods, which will include humans in this clade here as well. So if we take a look at the fish first, or what we call the fishes, they have a number of characteristics we want to point out here. They are going to have this structure called an operculum. The operculum is going to cover the gill slits. And when it covers the gill slits, this is going to offer some protection for those gill slits. We're also going to have a swim bladder here. The swim bladder is going to help control buoyancy for the fish. Almost the entire body of the fish is going to be covered by some scales. And these scales are going to be ossified. So they're going to be bony scales. They're also going to secrete a slime that's going to help make them more streamlined in the ocean waters, which will help them to maneuver a lot faster. When we're talking about reproduction in the case of the fishes, primarily we're talking about oviviparous. And what this means is that we're going to have external fertilization, and then the female will be laying the eggs in a specific location. If we look at the first group of our bony fishes, this group right here, these are the ones that we tend to be more familiar with when we're thinking about fish. These are what we call the ray-finned fishes. And this would include all of those, if you tend to go fishing, all of those fish that you tend to catch. So bass, we've got tuna here on this slide, cod. This is going to be a major protein source for humans, other animals, aquatic organisms as well. So these are going to be fish that have bones in their fins. The other groups of fish that we have are very primitive fish, very primitive looking fish. And these happen to have very strong lower fins. And with these, if we point out what we have here, this is going to be the actinista, and then this one on the bottom will be the dipnoi. And this at the top, this is the coelacanth. And the one at the bottom is what we call the lungfish. Both of these groups, because they do have such strong lower fins, these fins help them to kind of maneuver or walk on the ocean floor. And in some cases, specifically the lungfish, these are going to help the fish to actually prop themselves up out of the water a little bit. And the lungfish does actually gulp air when it does prop itself up. So what we're seeing with these two groups is really the beginnings of the development of limbs from the fins.